Good morning, everyone. How you doing? This is Mike McCormick with Advanced Criminology here in Owings Mills, Maryland. Today is January 22nd, 2018, and I'm recording this at 9:38, I believe. So, today's question, we've had a busy week last week in Baltimore City. Several shooting incidents. Already, the death toll January 2018 as of this day has reached 13 homicides. The 13th came yesterday on Sunday afternoon. Just let you know that Sundays don't mean nothing here in Baltimore when it comes to crime. Two individuals were shot adjacent to Druid Hill Park. One individual died in that shooting incident. Today, I wanted to discuss, and the topic of today's video will be, is downtown Baltimore safe at night? And I'm going to let you guys be the judge. And the way you'll be the judge is by your response to me in my comment section. Okay, so let's recap last week what happened in Baltimore to bring me to this point to discuss this particular situation. As you guys know, you follow me, Friday the 19th, we all know that Commissioner Davis was fired. So we have a new commissioner, and again, I will be reporting on this gentleman probably within this week sometime. Just trying to do a little more background information on the new commissioner, some of his philosophies, and he spent 30 years on the police department. So let's see exactly what type of philosophy he's going to institute. Certainly we want to give the man a chance. Like we should do anybody that decides to take on a mission like this, and kind of figure out, what he stands for, what he'll tolerate, what he won't tolerate. I think one of the things that I was concerned about was that although you may have a game plan, a fighting crime plan to deter the criminal element in the city and to reduce crime, we also know that has to take place within the police department itself, since we now know that there is a lot of corruption amongst officers in specialized units within the department, and that comes from the reports and the arrests recently last year. So let's figure out what you're going to do externally, which is fight crime, reduce crime. And let's look at what you're going to do internally to reduce crime. You have two things going on with the police department. So we'll see. Okay, so let's get back to topic. I'm going to recap what happened on Tuesday, January 16th. For those of you who do not live in Baltimore, a lot of you guys get your news from YouTube. And this is why I try to be real critical, on point with a lot of the messages that I send out. Simply because a lot of you will probably not read the news media, so to speak, and you'll be hearing it from me. So I want to be close as possible to some of the news reports, and then I critique those based upon my experience in law enforcement and academic experience as well. So here we go. Tuesday, January 16, 2018. At Charles and Saratoga Street, there was a 7-Eleven holdup about 1:10 a.m. Two suspects armed with weapons entered the 7-Eleven store, pointed the weapons at the clerk, and when the police arrived, they engaged the police officers in a shootout. The suspects were able to flee the 7-Eleven in different directions. They were still engaging the police department officers, where approximately, as reported, 60 rounds were fired between the police as well as the suspects. Now, let me give you geographically where this incident occurred. Charles and Saratoga is a very busy thoroughfare. In fact, my first office was located at 312 North Charles Street on the 4th floor. This was 3 or 4 years ago, before we moved out here to Owings Mills. I can't ever recall an incident where we had shooting take place on Charles Street where 60 rounds were fired in the time that we leased our business down there for 3 years. So this is all new this was new to me, and I find it incredibly unbelievable that this could still happen in this day and age with pretty much where that particular incident was located. Now let me give you just geographically where this place is at in Baltimore. It's 5 blocks north of the Inner Harbor. So a lot of you folks from around the country have heard about the Baltimore Inner Harbor. It's kind of the crown jewel of the city, so to speak, where we receive millions of visitors every single year to come and visit the Inner Harbor of Baltimore. It's the 3rd largest port city on the East Coast, the 3rd largest port city. And this is why a lot of businesses and industry want to locate here, because of the access to the port. It's 2 blocks west of the courthouse. It's 5 blocks west of, guess what? Police headquarters. It's located in the area, this 7-Eleven, where there are 2 32-story buildings that stand across the street from this particular 7-Eleven that total has about 800 apartments in it. Now, you won't believe this. Where the 7-Eleven is located, above the 7-Eleven, there are approximately 40 apartment units in 3 stories. So this is a mixed-use building where this particular shootout occurred in Baltimore City at Charles and Saratoga Streets. So literally you have thousands of people living in that area, in that immediate area where that 7-Eleven is located. So you have the police engage these particular suspects when they come out. Both suspects run in different directions. Neither suspect was caught that evening or that morning when this incident occurred. And it was a brazen robbery, because this robbery was being recorded and reported by the City Watch, which is a 24-hour service that operates separately from interior security that the 7-Eleven would have. So the City Watch has strategic mounting of cameras all over downtown Baltimore, and in some of the outlying areas of the city as well. So this robbery was in progress and reported to the officers. The officers immediately responded. They got there in no time to confront the suspects. Once the officers arrived on the scene, they immediately were engaged in combat with these suspects. One of the things that I noticed on the video, that one of the suspects was in fact carrying a Tech-9. It looked like it was a Tech-9 to me. That was backed up by the police department, that the suspect looked like he was carrying a Tech-9. And so when they engaged the officers were really outgunned at that point. And that's why they retrieved out the door. And I'll tell you why they were outgunned. And I'll tell you why this particular Tech-9 is such a lethal weapon in terms of what it can do in a combat situation. Now remember, the police departments, they're carrying these 9mm 40 caliber Glock weapons, okay, which in the magazine probably holds 13 or 14 rounds. That's it. And then they have to reload. Okay, well, let me tell you about this Tech-9. This is an assault weapon. It's a semi-automatic version of a military submachine gun is what it is. And it works off what they call an internal feed system. So it can feed 10, 20, 32, 50, and 72 rounds in a magazine. And the gun is typically used in mass killings, and it's been outlawed by the DEA, where it cannot be sold across the counter. Now, it's effective up to 50 meters, translation 150 feet. It's generally used to spray a crowd of people on a street corner, if you will, or if you're going to use it in mass killings, you walk in an establishment and you spray the whole place, and you're sure to kill a lot of people in a matter of seconds. And that's what it's designed to do. It's a military submachine gun. Simple as that. The gun uses what they call full metal jacket rounds. What that means is that that round can penetrate a human being. It can penetrate a wall. And one of the strategic, let's say strategic ways that this weapon can evade law enforcement is that the designers of the weapon have designed the weapon so the outer casing is resistant to fingerprints. Can you believe that? That manufacturers are designing weapons that are resistant to fingerprints. So that certainly doesn't help law enforcement at all. Okay, so that's what the officers that night were up against. And so I understood why they backed out of the doorway, because I'm sure when they heard the rounds go off and as quick as they went off, they knew that they were outgunned at that particular point. Okay, so that was that incident, and that occurred again on Tuesday, January 16th, 2018 at 1:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning, somewhere around there. Okay. On January 19th, that's a Friday, 2018, at 9:30 p.m., a Maryland correctional officer was operating her van in the state office building complex just north of the downtown area, about 10 blocks maybe north of where the last shooting occurred at the 7-Eleven. And she was shot in her left shoulder as she was operating the correctional van. Now, let me give you a geographic about this particular location. The state office building complex is huge. It has 3 or 4 high-rise buildings, probably about 10 stories, 12 stories each building. At any given time, they probably have 1,000 people working in that particular building. This happened to happen early in the evening, so I'm sure they had some light staff working, that late at night at 9:30 p.m. And again, this was on a Friday afternoon, a Friday evening. This state office building is also like 2 blocks away from the Meyerhoff, which is an entertainment facility. And this particular location is also surrounded by dozens and dozens of apartment buildings, very expensive apartment buildings, I might add, where a lot of people live at. And so, what we have is two separate incidents, one on a Tuesday, one on a Friday, where the suspects don't care if they are confronted by law enforcement. Don't care about shooting an officer in the arm. Trust me, I'm sure that shooting in the arm was not intended. The shooting probably to hit the officer in the head was probably more intended, just as the suspect just missed. So, that's what the police department was up against both Tuesday and Friday. Okay, so 3 days apart, these 2 incidents, January 16th, January 19th. Now, the suspect has not been caught in that particular incident, and I'm sure an automatic weapon was used. The reports have not said so, but I would tend to believe that's the weapon of choice with criminals, is the automatic weapon. Okay, we're moving on. January 20th, 2018 at 3 o'clock a.m. You got 3 suspects who are at Park and Clay Street, and the police were called because, again, City Watch was able to pick these guys up, and City Watch saw these 3 suspects with all handguns. Now, at 3 o'clock in the morning, you got to ask yourself, the area at 3 o'clock in the morning is pretty isolated, that part of downtown. But mind you, the 7-Eleven shooting happened around the corner from where these guys were caught at Park and Clay. I'm talking about 2 blocks away from the 7-Eleven. Now, and again, businesses, apartment buildings, and all operate in that particular area. So, when the police arrive, they give chase to the suspects. They end up catching 2 of the suspects. One of them they shot in the leg. The other suspect escaped in an unknown area. So, it just goes to show you that from the 16th to the 20th, like a 4 or 5 day span, and in downtown, in the heart, I'm gonna tell you, the 2 incidences, the one on the 16th and the one on the 20th, are in the heart of downtown Baltimore, the heart of it. Okay. Now, crime, when you study criminal justice, crime is always about opportunity. In most cases, opportunity, except for the cases where opportunity does not matter. But in most cases, crime is about opportunity, meaning that suspects don't really want to get caught, so they're going to plot and plan when they do something. So they're waiting for the right opportunity, if you will, to commit a crime. And so this is what's going on in a lot of cases. Moving on. So, I looked at the 3 cases, and I always like to look at them and then kind of give my opinion on, what's in common with these cases. Well, the perpetrators came downtown to commit crime. In every case, they came downtown to commit a crime. They use automatic weapons to commit these crimes. And the crimes were committed between 9:30 and 3 a.m., which means that the police department will be looking at those time frames to adjust their manpower in their downtown area, again, to thwart these types of incidences from happening. In each case, there were multiple suspects, except for the one case where, and we don't know because the officer was hit from a distance. She couldn't identify a perpetrator. And none of the suspects are afraid of law enforcement confrontations in any capacity. And that's scary, because we have people out there, and as you know, we know that suspects have no problems confronting law enforcement officers because they killed 2 officers in cold blood back in November, 12 days apart, as I reported on one of the prior videos. Okay, so this is just an extension. And now, mind you, this is why that the cry should be, let's get these guns off the street. Simply because, and let's think about it, if the gun crimes, according to the police department, are being committed by a small group of people, then more than not, it's the same people that are creating havoc in the city with shootings over and over again. And they're not getting caught the first time out. Quite naturally, if you have an officer executed on the 4th of November, another officer executed on the 12th of November, then we turn around and in January, we see suspects armed to the teeth downtown with handguns, brazenly just shooting at officers. There's a problem in that, and there's a connection somewhere along the line. Because if you get away with killing 2 officers, you certainly don't care about killing even more, at this point. So that's a concern. It's a huge concern. Okay, moving on. Okay, so we entitled this video, again, is Downtown Baltimore safe at night? I'm going to let you guys be the judge. I'm going to follow up in the next video. I believe we're going to be talking about national news. What incidents have made national news since 2015 in Baltimore to keep people away from the city? Whether it's to come down and buy a home, lease apartment, bring the family down, these things are serious. And so we'll be talking about those national news incidences that pretty much can determine how people interact with this city. I think I said there were 13 homicides January so far this year. Last year we were doing 28.5. That's what the numbers break down to. You divide 12 into 343 and you come up with 28.5 people murdered per month last year. And again, we've reached only 13 homicides so far, and the month's not even over. It's 31 days in this month. The month's not over, so we have like 9 more days to, see what happens with the homicide rate. I'm gonna keep it short. I want to thank you guys once again for listening to what I have to say and what we want to put out here at Advanced Criminology. I ask that you also subscribe, as always. We appreciate that. And put your comments down and I'll respond as soon as I can. Thanks a lot. I'm Mike McCormick with Advanced Criminology Services.